My mother was born Noela Mary Frost on the 6th of May 1925. Her parents, Veronica, known as Bonnie, and Henry James, known as Jim, and older brother, Gordon, known as Hen, lived in the Sydney suburb of Lidcombe, close to friends and extended family. They had a comfortable life considering the times, with the Great Depression looming and World War II, which began when Mum was 14. Jim and Bonnie were fortunate enough to be in a position to hand out food and cash to the less well-off. I think this experience is part of what gave Mum her compassion and complete lack of judgment in terms of social status, colour and race. During the Second World War, she and her mum Bonnie helped pack rations to be sent overseas to troops serving in the Middle East and New Guinea. Although a talented student earning entry to a selective high school, as a female, she was expected to leave after 3 years. After doing a business course, Mum worked locally for the Australian General Electric, AGE, riding her bike to work. With the war now 4 years on and the Australian call for contribution strong, as soon as she turned 18, Noela applied to join the AWAS, the Australian Women's Army. Her time in the AWAS left her with many engaging stories. We've provided a link to read some of her experiences that she documented a few years back. Serving with the Signals, she was based in Townsville, decoding Morse code messages from the Australian troops in New Guinea. Townsville hosted Australian Army facilities and was the USA's largest Air Force base in the region. Considering she was 18, this was the first time she'd been away from home, Mum embraced the new experiences and challenges, and this set her on a path for a brave and always interesting life. In 1946, at 21, Mum enrolled in a rehabilitation course as a comptometer operator and after completing the course, started working at David Jones' invoice control section. Post-war, Noela met and married Thomas Wesley Bentley in February 1949, and I was born in December of the same year. They, like many with the post-war housing shortage, does that sound familiar? Were living in a garage in Oatley West, where they had purchased a small deli milk bar convenience shop in a group of shops that still stands today. The choc-dipped ice creams and homemade brawn were legendary, and deliveries were done by bicycle at the end of a long day at the shop. Very hard work. All her patience and positivity must have been tested, with no running water or power to the garage, a new baby, no family nearby, and a husband who worked 7 days a week. My sister Heather was born in 1953. Fortunately, by that time, we were in a real house in My Street, Oatley West, which Mum would call home for the following 50 years. Wes turned the garden into a productive space, with enviably large tomato, heads of broccoli, beans and more, as well as beautiful roses, chrysanthemums and dahlias. Mum loved people and was always up for a laugh or to lend a hand, and with this attitude she soon entrenched herself in the local community, making lifelong friends with so many young families in the midst of the now famous baby boom. More stories of their time in Oatley, written by Noela, are shared in the attached link. When Dad joined Qantas, life became more settled. They were able to have a social life that included card nights, dress-up parties, trips away to Fiji, Tonga, Singapore and New Zealand, with the free tickets that Qantas provided to employees and their families at that time. Mum made the choice to work outside the home part-time so she could still be there for us girls. She worked a range of jobs. In the local fruit shop, I remember, which may have helped with the family's fruit supplies. Later, she worked at Farmer's department store in George Street, Sydney for many years. Mum was a woman of 1,000 talents. She was the best dressmaker and could make literally anything she had seen or could dream up. Even very complicated designs, she would be able to draw a pattern and create clothes for all the family. Her knitting ability is famous. She crafted Aran jumpers for Peter, knitted lime green and navy stockings for me, yes, really, I still have them, and complex baby outfits, including her leather-soled knitted shoes for toddlers, before similar items were available in the shops. As many of you know, food has always been at the heart of my family's life. My father's time in the Middle East and in Southeast Asia during the war gave him a yearning for new food experiences. Mum embraced this, and she became an adventurous and wonderful cook. Wes was proud of his productive garden, which supplied us and half the neighbourhood with boxes of delicious vegetables and the occasional red-backed spider. Our chickens gave us eggs and, on special occasions, chicken soup. I also remember counting a whopping 25 fruit trees on our suburban block. In the early 1970s, after Heather and I left home, Mum and Dad retired to a new life of volunteering, travelling, learning new skills, and enjoying their new grandchildren. This would keep them busy and happy for the next 20 years. The Oatley West Bowling Club was a focus for exercise, social life and fundraising for many years, and Mum was club president in 1985. The Second Third Pioneers Veterans Association, of which Dad was president and secretary at various times, required a huge commitment from both of them, supporting the ageing veterans and keeping the group functioning and communicating for decades. But they still managed to have time to spend with their 3 grandchildren, Kylie, Jamie and Josh, who treasure memories of their visits to their garden paradise, picking snow peas, avocados, cherry tomatoes, pawpaw, and eating the delicious local oysters. After Dad's brief battle with cancer and passing in 2001 at the age of 85, Mum's life entered a new phase. She was only 75 and full of the love of life, but her house was too big and the garden too difficult to manage. Being far from the support of her family, something had to change. In 2004, Noela moved to the Grange Retirement Village in Tea Gardens, only a short drive from where Peter and I were living and running the hotel we'd built, Bomba Point Eco Cottages. She embraced the new lifestyle in Tea Gardens and made many friends there. She joined the Red Cross, the RSL Ladies Auxiliary and the University of the Third Age. Continuing her love of new experiences, learning and meeting interesting people and travel, this was an unexpected but very happy part of her life for the next 15 years. Trips to Norfolk Island, cruises on the Murray River and Sydney Harbour, regular trips, bus trips and visits from the Sydney Symphony Youth Orchestra come to mind. She was always generous with her support of friends and in turn was always supported by others in the community. She was almost 95 when her ability to manage in her own home became too challenging, so she decided to move to a local nursing home. First to Peter Sinclair Gardens in Hawk's Nest, and then to Marco Polo in Woonona, who provided the specialised care she required under difficult circumstances for all health facilities. She was visited most days by myself, friends and family. Fortunately, the challenges of COVID lockdowns and advancing dementia did not dampen her keen wit, which shone through on her good days. Mum's death was calm and unrushed. 4 generations of family gathered around and we said our goodbyes, sang songs and made our peace. Her burial was beautiful. A simple ceremony in a bush setting. Her coffin lid painted by her great-grandchildren, something she would have loved. Monty sang, Millie helped carry the casket, and Bon and Arlo threw flowers into the grave. Jamie shucked some oysters, her favourite, which we enjoyed, and then consigned the shells to be buried with her. Mum was beautiful and special soul. Loved by so many, she will always be remembered.